Hi, this is Donald here, and I wanted to talk about something a little different today. I wanted to talk about reimagining work, starting with email. Recently, I've read a book called A World Without Email by Cal Newport, and I really dug some of the ideas in it, and I wanted to make a list of a couple of things I've learned from it. And, I'm into fountain pens, so I figured I'd write some stuff down this time. Okay, the first thing I've learned about email is don't let it become your work. I hear this a lot, and I think people say that a lot, and I'm totally like this too, where you just kind of wait for email to come in to decide what work you do. Rather, the author proposes you decide what you want to do without constantly checking email to figure out what email tells you to do. And he suggests something like a Trello board, which, it's a company, but basically it's having like lists, boxes of to-dos and, pending and done, doing, that kind of stuff. And it's organizing your workflow to do what you want to do rather than waiting for other people to tell you what to do via email. And I've been experimenting, I found this to be less stressful and more productive. And it helps me have a better view of my workflow. The second thing I learned from this book is to limit your context switches, which is a fancy way of saying be focused. Be focused. Now, context switches is switching from one idea to the other. For example, you're working on a project and you feel tempted to check email, and then you check email, and now you've kind of tainted your mind with all the thoughts about the email, and you've interrupted yourself. And the point is to become focused and limit those context switches, which I think a lot of us are guilty about incessantly checking email. I know I try not to, but there's something so psychologically appealing about checking email. But every time you do, it slows you down and adds a little stress, in my opinion. The third thing I learned from this book is you want to optimize processes rather than optimize actions. So, for example, optimize. You want to optimize the process, and something like that would be like lean. Optimizing the action is like becoming more efficient with your email, like a little bit better at doing your task. And there is a place for this, but it really needs to first become an optimization of your process. For example, you can become 15 seconds faster at checking your email and replying, but does it matter if you're still getting 500 emails a day or 100 emails a day? Maybe it's worth more to optimize the process of how you communicate with people, and then you receive only 20 emails a day, and now you've saved hours of your time. So you want to optimize the process, the big picture, and then you can get into the nitty-gritty, the small time-saving improvements. The fourth thing I learned was keep emails really short or just talk, like 5-sentence emails. Now, the point of this is email is meant to be for very simple communications that can end. And if you're writing paragraph-long emails, it's probably better to just communicate the same information in person or with a phone call or a meeting. Because the longer and the more complex the subjects become, the more back and forth there has to be. And the more back and forth you have to be is the more emails you have. And the more emails you have, the more misunderstanding and the miscommunications you have. For example, in my personal line of work, There are plenty of times I've sent very detailed emails, and afterwards, I don't feel like the people I sent the email to quite understood my point. And sometimes I wish I would have just called them and talked to them for 5 minutes, and it would have been faster than writing the email, and both of us would have understood what we were trying to accomplish. And this is a nice less stress way. It's just a simple rule for you to know when you should talk to people. And just one more thing, I learned to work in sprints. Sprint. Don't wander. Now, the point of the sprints is to be very focused in intervals and then take breaks. Rather than wandering around, and I 100% emphasize with this, where you are working but very slowly and you're looking for more things to do. Rather, the author encourages you to really focus, get your task accomplished, take a break, move on to the next thing. If you don't have a next thing, take a longer break, do a personal project of yours, do some research, work on something else. Because when you wander is when you get very distracted. It can become stressful, you lose focus. And in my opinion, being focused is a relaxed state of mind, right? Your mind only has to think of one thing, whereas when your mind wanders, there's an infinite amount of things it can think about and worry about. So in my profession, I feel like a lot of times I wander rather than just hunkering down and focusing. And the big culprit of this is email. So when you, going back to point one, have a different way of organizing your workload, it helps you to sprint. Whereas when you are checking email a lot, you are wandering because your mind keeps changing attention and switching to different tasks. And maybe you have one project you've been working on for 20 minutes and then you get an email about a separate project and you spend 10 minutes thinking about it and writing a reply to that email. Now you are no longer sprinting, you're constantly changing your attention. And these are some things I learned from A World Without Email. I hope you find this useful. This is the first time I've used a camera, I think, recording, so it's a little bit jank, but I hope you can move on past that, and I hope you got something out of this. Let me know what you thought in the comments below, and if you like it, consider watching some more stuff. Okay, thanks.